Celebrate the summer solstice in community.
Join our annual Arts and Wellness Festival to connect, create, and celebrate with the Sultry Sisters.
In 2023, we explored what it means to cultivate your sanctuary.
Our 3-day festival highlights BIPOC, women, and queer artists and wellness practitioners based in San Diego.
Each year, we collaborate with featured guest artists to build our festival program, which includes creative expression classes, wellness workshops, and performances.
Day 1 of the festival is all about connection. We begin our festival with a social mixer where attendees enjoy music, dancing, and have an opportunity to meet other attendees, guest artists, and us.
Day 2 of the festival is all about creating. Our arts and wellness workshops give folks an opportunity to explore, embrace, and embody what cultivating your sanctuary means to them.
Day 3 of the festival is all about celebration. There is music, dancing, performances, and an open mic for attendees to share. Without a doubt, we always close with a dance party and teach folks the sultry strut.
We are grateful for all the memories made each year at our Summer Solstice Arts and Wellness Festival, and we can't wait to see you next year.
In the meantime, remember to keep living vibrant and shining bright. Welcome, y'all.
Hey, welcome to the Bayan Book Club, everyone.
Yes. So happy to be here. If you're new, this is our Sultry Hangout and featuring our Bayan Book Club series, featuring the book, The Artist's Way. So we're so happy to be here. It is week 3.
Yes. I feel like we're further into the journey, but today when I was getting ready, I was like, oh, wow, we're just at week 3. I feel like each week feels like a lifetime, y'all. But if you're with us, give yourselves a pat on the back, a round of applause, because each week is not easy, but we're still here and y'all are still showing up, which is great. And so, of course, as we begin, we want to welcome everyone who's tuning in, whether you're on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, or Instagram Live, or if you're watching the replay. We'd love to learn where you're tuning in from and what you're sipping on. Okay?
Yes. This is a discussion series. So whether you are participating in the book club or just tuning in to just chat with us, we want to welcome you to use the comment section to engage with us. So my name is AJ. I am co-founder, and I am tuning in from sunny San Diego, specifically on the campus of SDSU, and I am sipping on some poppy. It's strawberry lemon, and it's a prebiotic soda.
Nice. I do like poppy.
It is very good. It is very good. I approve. For me, I really battle with my addiction to carbonated beverages, specifically dark sodas, Dr. Pepper. And I'm trying to curb that. So this has been something that is helping me to do that. And it's also my afternoon delight because I'm at school for so long. This poppy gives me a little breath of fresh air, some zest, some energy. So I'm happy to be sipping on that today.
Nice. Hey, y'all. I'm Tony Lynn, she, her pronouns, tuning in from the DC area. It is sunny right now, but it's cold. Don't let the sun fool you. It was cold today. When I was walking to and from the train, I was like, oh, it's chilly. So I got layers on. I got my earrings from Wires by PQ. Necklace I got from the Wardrobe Project. It's like this thread through this infinity sign. My Pisces tarot one I got from Femme Fatale, I wear all the time. This pink mesh long sleeve I thrifted at DC Goodwill when I did my thrift curated rack event. This shirt that has Nikki Giovanni on her, may she rest in peace, that I got from Fruit Market. And I got some fringe pants, y'all, which are super fun. I guess I'll just show my little
Little leg. So if y'all follow us on Instagram, you will see that we frequently post our outfits of the day. So if you want to get into it, definitely follow us on Instagram and follow Tony on TikTok because she be giving all that. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Or I forget, I have my coconut water from Trader Joe's, which is kind of a pinky tint, which kind of goes with my outfit too. But I need to stay hydrated. And it's kind of like my little treat too. Like yesterday, I stopped by Trader Joe's just to pick up a few things, and I was like, oh, I love coconut water. So I'll be staying hydrated with this today, y'all.
We love. Sultry Mama is tuning in from San Juan Capistrano, sipping on some water. Nice to have you in here, Sultry Mama. Kyle's tuning in from DC on the way to Wheaton, not helping the caffeine addiction out there, drinking Karuba Elderflower Red Bull. You know, sometimes
real interesting.
Karuba Elderflower. It's like Red Bull's like, you know what, we're gonna get on that healthy kick, you know.
All the brands are, honestly.
All the brands. And then we have Jessie, her tuning in from sunny Southern California, not sipping on anything at the moment, but maybe I should be. You know what? Me too. You know how I know I'm dehydrated? When I can't put my rings on.
Oh, because then you're just like blue.
When the fingers are swollen. So that's why I don't have no rings on today. So I'm dehydrated as well. I should be drinking agua fresca to be the least, you know.
That's why I got coconut water, because it has electrolytes, natural electrolytes. So yeah, stay hydrated, y'all. So if y'all need to go get your beverages, order some food.
Get comfy.
Yeah, get comfy, get a blanket, go outside, whatever you need to do. Put your headphones on so you can really lock in. Yeah, so we're glad that you're all here today. So we have some announcements that we'll share as people keep coming in. But it's April right now, which I feel like spring is flying by. Okay, spring is springing on by. But we have some really exciting things coming this spring. We have more to announce soon, but right now what we want to share is May 24th, which is a Saturday, is our closing Radical Soul Care series. So we're going to have these two incredible guest artists that we've worked with before. We're going to have Sunny from Sunny Street, Oceanside, and Rose, who was with us at the festival last year. They both were our culinary artists at our festival last year, but they both will be a part of our Bloom Planting Seeds of Change final workshop for our series. And even though this is the final one, of course, we're going to keep doing things like this. But you don't want to miss out. It's going to be 3 hours long, 12 to 3 on the 24th at the Oceanside Public Library. And if y'all didn't know, this week is National Library Week. So shout out to your local libraries. We love our library, especially Oceanside Library. We got our first library cards from there when we were very young for San Diego. We go there all the time. And then as we develop Sultry, it's been a hub for us to print our materials, check out books, and then we've done events there in the last so many years. We did a book club with the library. We did Atlas of the Heart. If you were part of that, you can comment below to let us know. But yeah, so happy National Library Week, and we can't wait to be in the library at the end of May. And that is Memorial Weekend. But you know what? We're on Saturday, so you still have time.
Yeah, you still have Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, and it's free. Free 99. There's going to be food.
Free 99.
There'll be plants. And so y'all don't want to miss out. Okay, this is going to be, all the workshops have been amazing, but this is going to have even more for all of y'all to pour into y'all just as much as y'all been pouring into us, and kind of more of like a celebration vibe as it's warmer. We get to be out in the courtyard for parts of the workshop.
And speaking of planting seeds of change, which is the theme of our final workshop, we have our festival. This year's theme is the healing nature of play. We're so excited. You can learn more by visiting sultrysisters.com SS Festival, and our interest list registration is open now. So it's not the official registration, but it's an interest list. So when the registration goes live, you're the first to know to reserve your spot. We are in communication with some of the guest artists. We are so excited because there's no better time to really tap into our creative and collective power and centering it in pleasure and play. So we are going to be really rooting in that theme, and we hope that you can join us in North County, San Diego.
Yes, so the festival is June 20th to 22nd in North County. So don't miss out. Go to our website, sultrysisters.com/SS Festival, and be the first to know. It's fun. This is our 4th year doing it, which is crazy. This is something we dreamed up years ago, and now every year we get to celebrate the summer season with all of you. So again, we have a lot of exciting things coming, and we have even more that we'll share soon.
And speaking of the festival, we have Jenny Wright here with us. She's one of our culinary artists in our past festivals, and she's tuning in from Los Angeles, sipping in on matcha. Ooh, we love. It's my go-to beverage. I love that.
Yes. We have Lauren tuning in from San Diego with chilled hibiscus tea. I love that. We love hibiscus tea, and hibiscus is like one of my spirit herbs and plants, flowers that I always feel so called to. And then we have Sultry Mama sharing, I got my updated Oceanside library card. Yay! We love that. And if y'all didn't know, even if you have a library card, you can always go, if you like lost it, you can always go back to your local library and get a new one. The Oceanside Library had like these, they did like a contest for like art for the cards. If you get a new one, it'll have like a cool, you can choose which art design you want. So there's a lot of reasons to go to your local library. If you need to do your taxes, it's tax season. You could do your taxes at the library. You know what? You could do all kinds of things.
It's a great place.
If you still haven't picked up your book, check it out from your local library, or even download the Libby app and you can listen to it, the audiobook.
Yes. So it is our Bayan Book Club series featuring The Artist's Way. And shall we get into week 3? Shall we do our check-in?
Yes, but first, in case I don't want to forget at the end, next week. So for this series, we did have an open call, and it's still open. So if any of y'all want to join us live, like Katie did last week, you are open to just DM us or email us, and we can get you on the roster. But next week, for week 4, we have Kyle Moore, or Dr. Kyle Moore, rather, joining us for week 4. And he will be on live being our guest artist. So it'll be same like Katie, but next week we'll have Dr. Kyle Moore joining us. And then every other week right now we have scheduled a guest. So Jenny is one of the guests that'll be joining. If you're part of our newsletter list, then you got the full list in today's email. So check out your email to see all the full lineup of guest artists. But if you're watching right now and you're like, I really want to be a part of this, then definitely message us and we can add you to the list.
Yes.
So yes, now we can get into our check-in.
All right, let's check in, y'all. First off, our morning pages. Check in. How many pages in the chat? Let us know how many pages you got. So if you're new here, one of the creative exercises that Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way, recommends we do along this series is to take some time in the morning to write 3 pages of conscious, like just straight off the dome, conscious pages. And I'm happy to report I got 6 out of 7. I missed today. Today is the day that I missed it because it's Tuesday's a long day for me, so I woke up late. But I'm happy to share. I got 6 out of 7, and I feel like I'm getting into the habit. I feel like week 3, I'm finally like having a physical memory of needing to do something in the morning. And yeah, I feel pretty good. I'm off to a better start than last time.
Yeah, I got 6 out of 7 as well. And again, it helps when I title at the top like week 3 or week whatever day, and so then I can count back. So yeah, I got 6 out of 7, which I was proud of, especially because I was traveling over the weekend last week or this past week. So my schedule was all wonky, but I still got them done for the most part. And most days was 3 pages actually. Not every single day, but many of them were. And I think day 1 was actually, I think 4 pages or 5. So it was over the regular amount because then I got into a creative flow and started doing my like creative writing or open writing. And so that was nice. So yeah, because I felt like last 2 weeks was very like this is hard. And
right.
felt more like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm like coming back to the pages. So that felt nice.
Amazing. And those of you who are just joining in, you're like, why are we reporting these morning pages? This is about accountability. So a big part of us meeting weekly, especially this check-in, is accountability, that we are holding space to report the work that we're doing, and also to reflect on what's getting in the way of doing the work. So let us know in the chat how many pages you got in the morning pages, anything that came up for you in doing it. Is it getting easier? What's getting in the way? Those are the things that are important when we do this check-in for accountability. Is this acknowledging the growth that's happening, or even acknowledging the adversity or challenges that we're facing to work through?
Mm-hmm. And I see Jessie. Well, first, Jessie shared, this librarian thanks you for the library love. Of course.
Yes.
We love that. We love that you're a librarian. And then Jessie also shares, I did 5 days. I'm pretty good about picking it up again if I miss one. That's good.
Mm-hmm,
Again, it's that practice of the consistency, which not necessarily means like every day, but it's just like coming back to the thing, right? And kind of that self-discipline that like, it's okay to not be perfect, but you still want to show up for yourself to like honor that practice of just getting it all out.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm getting less judgmental and less like I'm less the editor or the censor in my head is more put in place. I feel like I'm getting to a place where I'm just being not judgmental. I'm about what I'm writing about, and I'm just getting through it. So it's interesting that that's happening for me on week 3, and my penmanship is improving. Okay,
That's good.
and my penmanship.
Like,
Yeah,
some
it's because
good, and then a lot of the pages I'm doing on the train actually, but I've been actually getting better about not caring what my penmanship looks like, to just get it on the page. Because parts of me is like, oh,
that
because you want
part.
legible, and I'm like, well, if you're not supposed to look back at it, and Tony, it don't need to be legible. So I'm like, okay, because before I would like cross stuff out and like rewrite if it looked weird, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like,
I have a whole page where I just tried cursive. Is it legible? No, but I was like, I'm gonna try cursive, because why? Why not?
And then Kyle shares, glad to get 7 out of 7 this week. Nice. Pages were def needed. Even got to journal with my nephew some, which was cool. Okay, teaching them young. I love that.
Yes.
And then Jessie shares, my penmanship better too. I was shocked, right? And especially in these days, we're
Me too, because I don't write enough.
yeah, if you work on the computer, or if your work is not really writing, you wouldn't really be picking up a pen and paper often, especially for long amounts of time. So yeah, I do think that's interesting. And so after our morning pages, then we have our artist date. So did y'all do your artist date this week? And if you did it, what did you do? Is there anything that you feel inspired to do? Or is there anything you kind of planned to do and didn't get to do?
Y'all, my artist date was at home, and I did an at-home tap dance session. Okay. And this artist date was unplanned. It was unplanned, but it was synchronous, I feel. And we'll talk about that later. So it was Sunday. I was planning on going to our friend who's a DJ, Sierra's event where she was spinning at Sunday's Best in San Diego. Because my plan was to go out and shake ass. I was like, I want to go out, I want to shake my booty, and I want to have some fun. But I was so tired it was the last day of my spring break, and I really, really wanted to, and I could count some other things I did during my spring break as an artist date, but I was like, no, those weren't intentional. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay home, and I'm gonna find something to do. And as I was cleaning and putting my luggage, I was putting my luggage back into the garage, I saw my tap board just like shoved in a corner. And for something was like, pull out that tap board and go tap. And I was like, but I don't even know where my tap shoes are. I was like, just go find it. So I did a little bit of like digging, and I found it in like a bin underneath my bed. And I did like an hour tap session. Was I tired? Yes. But was I so fulfilled? Yes. I felt like a little kid. I was like, I even like shared it with Tony. I was like, oh my gosh, I just had a tap session and I feel like a child again. There was something about having having a tap board out and tapping for a little bit and then going on YouTube and finding like a combination to try that really inspired me. And I ended up like stopping the YouTube and just like playing a song and just tapping with it. So it was an interesting like evolution of like how this artist day unfolded. And I think I want to keep it up because it was just so profound and so playful and unexpected.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you make me want to get my tap shoes out. I mean, I guess it's kind of hard since I live in an apartment, but but yeah. I did not get to do a date this week because I traveled over the weekend. So then usually my dates are on the weekend and I plan them. But since I was traveling, I didn't plan anything. So then, of course, nothing got done. But I did want to do my nails because I have, press-on nails that I like to have for my nail art. And I even have them. They're right here on my coffee table looking at me. But all the other days, once I got back, I was just tired. And just, again, I've learned that if I don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. And so, again, if my schedule gets busy, I need to just schedule it for another day and not be like, oh, okay, I didn't do it on Saturday. And so I'll figure it out. It's like, you need to figure it out, girl. You can't just hope for the best. So, yeah.
And I understand you because I feel like the reason why I got my artist date in is because I stayed home and I had idle hours and I was able to get all my tasks done, meaning like, your laundry list of things. And I was just there and like, it just came up. So I think it's interesting thing as we build up to like what gets in the way is like, do we even have space in our schedule? That's a great question.
Exactly. Kyle shares, still no date, gotta stop standing myself up, shaking my head. That's how I felt. I was like, come on now, girl. I was like, because every day I would be like, oh, I'm gonna do it, but then it kept getting pushed off. And then Sultry Mama says, gardening Sunday and taking photos of flowers on Saturday. I love that. Yes, Sultry Mama showed me some of her garden the other day on FaceTime. So I was taking photos on my FaceTime. You know how you can take photos on so I love that. We have Lauren. I got 5 days in this week for the morning page writing. I've been enjoying my new gel pen set. Ooh, I love that. Tried writing at different times, being mindful of how that felt. Right. And then we're all trying to find, ways in our schedule and our routines that feel good for us that we can sustain on this journey.
I will say there's a different tone that I have too, speaking on that, Lauren, of when I write in the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And I think they both have their benefits for sure.
Jessie shares, I watched the movie The Unknown Country starring Lily Gladstone. It was lovely. I had a resistance to it. I used to watch movies all the time, but it's hard for me to take breaks sometimes, right? It's like sometimes it's just, again, that inner self that's just like, oh, why are you going to do that? And it's like, oh, but you want to. Like, if you're curious, then you should try. And then Jessie shares, so I wanted to connect to that again, and I felt inspired after. I love that.
Yeah, connecting to like it's like back in the Blockbuster days, right? Like Blockbuster and Redbox were the days that we're gonna sit down and watch a movie. So I love that.
And then Jenny shares, work and tasks get in the way. LOL. I know the importance of these, but need to prioritize, child. Giving myself grace through this pivot of prioritizing me. I love that. The pivot of prioritizing me. Right. And again, it's just like giving yourself that grace, understanding that it's okay. And that and then just even that acknowledgement of like, oh, things have to shift and things have to pivot and things have to be reprioritized. And that's okay. I feel like I'm in a similar spot in my journey too.
And I think something to offer to the group, to our community is like, okay, a lot of us are really like overscheduled, overwhelmed, all these things. So what does a 15-minute artist date look like? Can we start with a smaller nugget? Because I think that's also hard for me too with the 2-hour chunk. Like, that's a lot of time. So I think, what would it look like for us to have a 30-minute artist date? An hour, and build, maybe we can build up to that. So maybe friends, let's start with 15 minutes. Because I think that's my reality right now. It's like, it might be my lunch break. It
Yeah.
might be that.
So kind of making it so less daunting and more like, okay, let me get it in. Because I do feel like once I start the thing of an artist date, then I'm like, oh, I love this. And you get in the groove. And sometimes you're able to extend a little bit longer. So maybe the 15 minutes will turn to 20 or 30. And with myself, I did do something creative over the weekend. I was at a conference presenting for Sultry, which when we talk about other things of the week, I'll get into that. But there was a part of the session when there was folks talking on the mic, but there was a booth to do crafts, which they were making zines to do like sex ed zine making. But I ended up just like creating a collage. Oh, it's in my bag over there. I should have brought it out. But it has like all these stickers on it that are like reproductive justice, LGBTQ plus kind of stickers, and just everything cutesy that I love. So I like put all these stickers on it, and then I even drew around the stickers. So it's like super sweet. And then I used that notebook during the conference, and I'm going to use that notebook kind of because it has no lines in it. So I'm kind of going to use that as like a more, I guess, artist day or like a creative doodle notebook. Because I know when I have line journals, like for my morning pages, I like it for the writing my thoughts, but sometimes it doesn't feel as freeing if I do want to like draw or doodle. But yeah, I did something creative, but again, I was with people and it wasn't intentional. So it's not my artist date, but I did feel good about having some sort of art experience over the weekend.
Yeah. And something that's coming up as we're talking about artist date or just date, it's like a lot of these artists, a lot of what's coming up for me and artist date is going in versus going out. So also inviting that, like, what are ways to go in? And I think when we're going on dates, we always make it equivalent to going out to this very extraneous thing. So maybe like reframing the artist day as an opportunity to go in, a break versus a doing. Because I feel like my mind is like, it's the mental gymnastics of another thing to do versus a break from that. That's that language. I'm like, ooh, I want to break from this. So artist day can be like eating your lunch outside on a blanket, looking at just being outside. I mean, that's in itself. And like, it kind of goes into what Kyle says, starting small feels in the spirit of the book for sure.
Exactly. And I like what you're sharing too, because it's also like just starting with what you have. Because I think too, sometimes the word date, especially I think maybe when she wrote the book, it wasn't maybe as much of a pressure. I think nowadays, a lot of people online are talking about like solo dates, solo trips, just dating in general, and how there's pressures with what dates are supposed to look like. So I think there can be like an inner pressure of like a date has to be this like big thing that like you plan ahead, but it could just be like, oh, you got 30 minutes available. Okay, you're going to doodle, or you're going to go outside and bask in the sun. You're going to go for a walk.
You're going to listen to a whole album from top to bottom.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think
you're going to create a playlist.
Yes, I think those kind of mental shifts can maybe help some of us, including myself, that feels like it can be challenging to really set that time aside. So maybe instead of setting it aside, maybe like let's just making the most out of the time we do have right now.
Oh, I love it. Lauren, I played Lego. Yes, I got a sunflower set. That playful session got me into a creative writing session, a new project. That's great. That makes me think of the artist brain activity, right?
Yes.
So artist brain activities, y'all, are things that like we can do, like a repetitive motion that gets us into that flow, playful state. And I definitely think that like Lego building can be one of them. For me, it's walking.
Yeah, no, walking is definitely one for me. And Lauren, you're reminding me, I have a few Lego sets that I would like to finish. So now you're reminding me, that's something I can probably put on my coffee table to remind myself that like I can do this as a date. Because for me, it's also like if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So I have to like put my thing that I'm gonna do, like if it's an object like right in front of me, so I can remember. But I definitely love that. And the next question we're checking in is were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your journey? And then I'll also add, we also wanted to start doing in our check-ins a synchronicity snapshot, which this week in the chapter actually like really defined that, but I wanted to give space if anyone wanted to just share any things that came up from them this week. Again, it could be an issue or it can be a synchronicity snapshot.
What was for me a synchronicity moment was the fact that on Friday I went to this like hotspot flea I think it's called Hotspot Flea Market, where our friend Sierra was DJing, and we saw Sultry community member Caitlin there. And she had saw me with my Sultry bag, and then literally like that weekend, she posted herself on an artist date with the Artist Way book, painting in the park. So it's cool to like see her, and then like a day later, see her post about her artist date, doing the Artist Way. So I feel like that was a very synchronous moment tied to like our Bayan book club.
Yes. And so for me, well, one of the issues is, again, it's just when I'm traveling or doing things that are out of my typical routine, I'm noticing that I have to find my routine regardless of my environment. And then also, like this week, which the book goes into, like this week is about recovering your sense of power, and it talks about just kind of, you might feel anger, you might feel joy, you might feel grief. I feel like I felt all of those this week, which again, this book, I feel like when you're reading it, it feels spot on, which she tells us that sometimes that scares people and they want to stop it because they're like, oh my God, this is too on the nose. Like, how can this be real? And that was happening to me this week. And then when we talk about synchronicity, my snapshot was that when I was at the Collective Power Reproductive Justice Conference, it was in Massachusetts. I traveled there and I was presenting our Soulscape, which is our mindful movement practice. And it was, all the rooms were like in different buildings. And then it was like walk through the gloomy, wet rain to get to your different buildings. So I finally get to the space that I'm hosting the workshop. And it's just this like empty room. And then before I open it, there's like a sign that has like the workshop title. So I see Soulscape. And then next to it is an old flyer from February, because it's February 19, which is my birth date. So it's an old flyer from February 19, and on the flyer has an image of a tiger, which if you don't know, my name is Tony, and then growing up, people always call me Tony the Tiger. So I was just like, oh, like in my head, I made a note, and I took a picture of it, and I sent it to Alyssa, and I was just like, oh, yeah. Like, synchronicity. So like that helped me, you know, just like feel grounded before I started my session of like, oh yeah, this is the space I'm supposed to be in. And then the people who are supposed to be in that space were the people who needed that session. But it was beautiful to be reminded of that this week with reading the chapter 3 of just those like beautiful moments that, again, sometimes we can't even really explain, or like it doesn't really make sense to others, but we're like, oh no, yeah, this is a sign.
Yeah. I love when you shared that with me. I was like, oh yeah, all the signs. Are there any other issues this week that you consider significant in your recovery? For me, I think something that came up for me is like your environment. Like my environment really shapes like my recovery. So being very intentional about what I allow in my space, including people. It's really important for me to surround myself with folks who are open to evolving, open to change. And I feel like something that's an issue is like people who want to keep you in your old self, like people who remind you of a shell, an old shell, because you know, it's in the book too, like people who get something from that old version of you. So I think for me, what's coming up this week of what's significant is to understand that's what's happening. that there will be people and even environments, like literal space. So I think a lot of times in the book, it talks about like people, but I think spaces also are significant in my recovery. And like me coming back to school, the shallowness of my breath that happens as soon as I get into the room I spend the most time in. So like understanding that I do need to take a break from that room. I do need to go to a room with window and outside. So I think having a week away from school reminded me, like, in order for me to recover, even though I'm in a creative major, that I need breaks from doing this thing. I need to do something else. I need to have other outlets that are not related to school and like creative academia.
Yeah. Yourself, not because again, if it's for school, that's for something outside of you. So yeah, I think what you're saying is, yeah, coming back to like what's going to really help you get back to yourself. Oh, we have this sweet moment from Mama Sultry. So Sultry Mama says, Tony the Tiger was your favorite stuffed toy. We lost him in Yokota Air Base. Aww. See?
It was like a towel. It was like a terry cloth tiger. I remember. It was cute.
Well, Tony the Tiger was with me this weekend, so that's sweet. And then Kyle shares, I'll say carving out time to devote to these practices felt like more of an effort this week. I'm glad I kept some of the pages and had time for meditation, but I had to set boundaries with more force. Yes. And again, I think that's why, again, each week we reflect so we can kind of see, okay, what are ways, we might want to show up better for ourselves in the next week, or what are ways that went well that we want to keep doing. So I think that's what's important about these check-ins. Because even if you don't do it with the book club, the check-in is still in the book. So regardless of week, she wants you to reflect and not just quickly move on to the next thing, but to really kind of process, like, how did that feel? Like, okay, do I still want to do that? Like, and so I think, again, that's all part of that creative recovery.
Oh, definitely.
So speaking of creative recovery, this week we're on week 3, which is recovering a sense of power.
Yes, and I like to always read what's here on the side of the book. So this week, you may find dealing with unaccustomed bursts of energy and sharp peaks of anger, joy, and grief. You are coming into your power as the illusory hold of your previously accepted limits is shaken. Yep. You will be asked to consciously experiment with spiritual open-mindedness. And we drop in this first section with anger, and the first sentence is anger is fuel, period. I was like, interesting. We feel it and we want to do something. Hit someone, break something, throw a fit, smash a fist into the wall, tell those people. But we are nice people, and what we do with our anger is stuff it, deny it, bury it, block it, hide it, lie about it, medicate it, muffle it, ignore it. We do everything but listen to it. And my gallstones will tell you I have a hard time with expressing anger.
Because if you don't express it, it's gonna go somewhere, right? Like energy, it has to go somewhere. So sometimes then that's when it becomes it builds up and becomes manifested as physical, like ailments in the body or blockages. Like literally you'll get blocked and then it'll block itself. So that could be a gallstone, a kidney stone, just an upset stomach, or you can feel like
sore throat,
even just a tightness in your throat. Sometimes you feel like, it feels weird to like speak, or you have a hoarse voice, all kinds of things, or sore muscles, your neck can be tight. And so one of the quotes she shares is on page 61. In the recovery of a blocked artist, anger is a sign of health, right? So again, she's mentioning anger, but in our typical society, anger is like a negative thing, right? Like, oh, you should push it away, or you shouldn't let people see you get angry, or you shouldn't allow yourself to have that emotion, which a caveat, we read Atlas of the Heart like 3 years ago, I think maybe now. And if you haven't read that book, it goes through so many different emotions, and anger is one of them that Brene Brown, the author, talks about kind of how we can allow ourselves anger. But this chapter has a little bit of those sentiments as well. But I felt like the fact that Julie Cameron mentions it as a sign of health, I'm like, wow, I feel like that's not how people word it a lot of times. And so I thought that was interesting because, again, I think it's also one of those things like if you're feeling angry, it means that like you are feeling something, right? Like you're responding to something or something is activating you. And another quote I wanted to share is on page 62. Anger is the fuel that propels us into our new one. Anger is a tool, not a master. So, right, it's something that we pay attention to because it's a tool, right? It can make us think, like pause and be like, okay, why is this thing, upsetting me, or why am I getting angry? And then use that as a tool for action is also what she talks about. It's like, not that will just make us react, but it'll have us kind of fuel that change that we want to see in our lives.
And there's a reason why anger is a part of the grief cycle, right? Because anger is an acknowledgement, and it kind of goes with what Jesse's saying. Oh, yes, the anger of missed time getting to create art in the past. So as recovering artists, we are grieving missed opportunity. We're grieving identities that we haven't claimed yet, that we are claiming now. So I definitely believe it's part of the healing process for sure. And that's why it's a part of grief, because it's an acknowledgement of a loss.
Exactly.
A loss of power. Giving someone I'm usually angry at myself for letting something happen that was in my power to prevent sometimes. Angry for not being the person I am. There's all those things, but it is a part of grief. It's definitely a part of it. Because, what's great about that part is because first it's denial and then it's anger. So it's another step into the direction of processing emotion or trauma or an event.
Yeah. And she closes a section by sharing on page 62, sloth, apathy, and despair are the enemy. Anger is not. Anger is our friend, not a nice friend, not a gentle friend, but a very, very loyal friend. It will always tell us when we have been betrayed. It will always tell us when we have betrayed ourselves. It will always tell us that it is time to act in our own best interests. Anger is not the action itself. It is action's invitation. And I feel like that was just a great way to sum it up. Again, it's like that we shouldn't just be like pushing anger away and like repressing ourselves of that feeling, that it's natural. It is part of our healthy selves to express that. And it's our friend, right? It's there to remind us that like, hey, don't let them play in your face, or like, don't play in your own face. Sometimes you're angry with yourself. You're like, why do I keep going in this pattern, or why am I not allowing myself to make space for myself? And I think, again, that's why it's really like the anger matched with the action. So it's not just be angry and just throw your hands up and then you're just like, oh, okay. And then you're just walking around moody all the time. And more of like to take that in as like information and like data to be like, oh, this is upsetting me. Okay, now let me make some sort of change happen, which kind of goes into what we're doing with our radical soul care workshop. We're talking about how do we sustain ourselves in the movement for social change? And a lot of time when social change is happening, it's because we're angry. Like even right now in our current state of the world and current nation state, we're angry. A lot of people are angry. We're upset. We're tired. And that it can manifest different ways in our bodies and how that shows up for us. But we are indeed angry. Emotions many of us are feeling.
Yes. Kyle shares, with the anger session, I wrestled with the moments where my anger is pointing me towards a place where I'm immature and need to grow. Yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, is that a part of me was like, when I think about that, I was like, is that our inner child giving that inner child a voice? Because part of me is like, well, is it immature because that's a version of ourselves that we never let even speak in that moment of when that happened? That's where my mind goes. I mean, that's what comes up as I read this. But yeah, like that's why the artist. So that's why some of these morning pages aren't meant to be read again. Okay.
Exactly. It's just allow yourself to feel that, get it out, and that's okay. It's a safe space. Just you and the pages. So I appreciate that she started off this chapter with anger, because again, I think it's something that many of us shy away from. So I like that she put it at the forefront. Like when we're talking about recovering a sense of power, anger can be helping us go towards our power.
Because a lot of people tie being angry to being immature, like, like, oh, why are you getting angry? Like, or like, don't go low. There's different phrases that are meant to pacify us into not getting into the action of what happens after you're angry. And it keeps us, it's just interesting. That's where I'm at with it. I'm like, I find that interesting. Why? And that kind of goes into, like Lauren shared, what's surprising me is seeing my own limiting beliefs written down on the pages. I've added new affirmation practices during this personal growth season. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, because part of limiting beliefs can be like, why can't I? Or that I think that those also in a way can tap into like repressed anger in a way.
And so the first section is talking about anger and taking action. Then the next section, we go into synchronicity, which when she begins this section talking about answered prayers. She said, answered prayers are scary. They imply responsibility. You asked for it. Now that you've got it, what are you going to do? Why else the cautionary phrase, watch out for what you pray for, you just might get it. Answered prayers deliver us back to our own hand. This is not comfortable. We find it easier to accept them as examples of synchronicity. And then she defines synchronicity as loosely defined as the fortuitous intermeshing of events. Back in the 60s, we called it serendipity, right? So some folks might be more familiar with serendipity. Some folks might use the word synchronicity. And there might be other words. So also drop in the comments if there's other words you use for this thing that she's describing. I think after this book, I definitely use the word synchronicity now. And yeah, so I feel like it's one of those things that it's like when you can't explain a thing and it happens, and or people kind of call, I guess, almost like a miracle kind of moment too, but maybe not as big as
I think
like, oh, like how did you might say like, oh, I really been wanting to go on a trip, and then maybe your friend calls you and is like, hey girl, like my friend dropped out of this, road trip, and I would like someone to drive with me to go see blah, 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 blah. Or, oh, I got an extra ticket to the concert. And you'd be like, oh, I've been wanting to do this. It's like those kind of moments too.
And I want to say synchronicity kind of taps into what she was saying this chapter is all about, is like being open-minded to possibility. When you're open to possibility, hence comes synchronicity, because you're able to, like, I don't know, it just offers it's like almost having a prescription, like a new pair of glasses to look at life. And so you see more connections. That's what kind of came up with when in this section of synchronicity is like, oh, sometimes people are like, oh, that's just the way you look at it. Exactly. Like, instead of poo-pooing that, like, no, how you look, perspective is everything. And perspective is everything as an artist. So the more you are able to honor your perspective and honor your impulse, which can sometimes be anger, that's why we like certain art form, like things, because like it's synchronous, it's connected, and it has a point of view.
And I think, again, this week is recovering a sense of power. And I think Julia Cameron is trying to remind us that's our power, right? Your intuition, or whatever word you want to use, but your intuition, your inner power, your inner knowing, that's how, when you connect to that, that gives you power. And she talks about how, like, yeah, a lot of people want to dismiss these things as coincidences. And she's like, it's not a coincidence. It's your power tapped in to the universe, source, creator. I know for me, I do a lot of like manifestation work. So a lot of times I also will share like, oh, that's something I manifested, but it could also be like, oh, that's a moment of synchronicity. So again, there might be different words that y'all might use. But I think when I talk to people, I think this is actually more common than people like mentally realize, which I think is important. And she also mentions on page 63, the universe will reward you for taking risk on its behalf, right? So I think that's what we're sharing is like these synchronicities is the universe like confirming. It's the affirmation of like, you're in the right direction. It's like when you ask the universe for a sign, like, okay, like which direction should I go? Should I apply for this thing? Should I accept this offer? And then boom, a sign will come or a song will start playing on your phone. And you're like, I thought my phone was on silent. And all of a sudden it's like going, and it's a song that reminds you that you're on the right path. So I think, again, when we're talking about recovering our sense of power, it's remembering that these things are not willy-nilly, not coincidences, that it is coming from within. And once we are able to recognize that and kind of harness that, then our creative selves can really flourish.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of comments in here. So we have Sultry Mama sharing synchronicity. Today I experienced synchronicity. I met someone that loves flowers like I do. It started from being a wrong number. Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. And then she said, I was going to get angry at first, but I was glad I responded instead of deleting or blocking the person. Right? And that's the
right. Open-mindedness.
That's a synchronicity right there where it's like, oh, maybe the universe, creator, God wanted you to have that moment with someone, right? And so again, I think these days it is hard with all the scammers and online, but I'm glad that you had that moment. And she said, we both love cherry blossoms. Now you have a friend. And then Kyle shares another new agey book. I love the Celestine Prophecy. Nice. I do own a copy of it, so it's on my reading list. It refers to them as coincidences that occur precisely when you're tapped into the right energy and theme. I like
that. I like that. And that even reminds me of like a quote that's on page 64. A discovery is said to be an accident meeting a prepared mind.
Ooh.
Albert St. Georgi. I'm not really saying, no, if I'm saying the last name well, but like it's true. Like, cause like the prepared mind is almost like the energy.
Yes. Which goes into another quote on page 64. Julia Cameron mentions, anyone honest would tell you that possibility is far more frightening than impossibility, that freedom is far more terrifying than any prison. And I think, again, that's why we're kind of, we tend to dismiss these things because then we're like, oh, wow, that means all the possibilities are endless, right? If the universe is confirming that like, oh yeah, you're on the right direction, you know, the sky's the sky's not the limit, right? It's infinite, that you really can do anything, then again our logic brain and rational mind is going to be like, that's too much, like we can't always fathom the infinite amount of possibilities that the universe and creator has for us. So then we'll put ourselves in boxes sometimes, even though we really like have much more power and much more access.
It goes into that quote: desire, ask, believe, receive. From Stella Terraman. I love that. Desire, ask, believe, receive.
Yeah. And I feel like that I really like that quote because I feel like it reminds me of, again, my manifestation and affirmation practice that I have with myself. Is like, yeah, asking myself, what is it that I want or want to call in? And then really, you know, tapping into that desire and then believing in it. Because I tell people all the time when they start manifesting practices that like you truly have to believe that. Like the way I'm on the East Coast is because I truly believed I was moving to DC. I had no job offer. Was not even applying for jobs. I wasn't even applying for grad school yet. I just kept telling people like I'm moving to DC. I'm moving to DC. And they're like, oh, when? And I was like, whenever it happens. And so many months later, I was in DC and doing the things that I believed in. And then also, not only do you have to believe in it, but you also have to open up yourself to then receive it. Because I think also sometimes on our journey, we will really want something, but then we're still blocked on the inside. So we don't think these opportunities are for us. We'll be like, someone will literally be like, hey, I need a singer for this show. And then the person will be like, oh, okay, I have a friend, she's really good at singing. And they're like, they asked you, you need to step up to the plate.
I mean, that goes into what Jesse was saying. That quote got me. The whole thing about being more afraid of success than failure. That happened with grad school because I literally told Tony, I'm going to apply to this program because I know I'm not ready. I just want to like practice like applying so that I have like a base application. And then I got the email. Great, we're gonna see you at callbacks. We're gonna have you come in and do an in-person audition and interview. And I was like, great, I get to practice, interviewing and singing and doing my monologue, whatever. And then they're like, great, you're accepted. And that's when I was like, no, actually, this is the worst time ever. I was telling Tony, I was like, I can't do this. I got sultry. I got my Pilates studio. I'm choreographer. I can't take 2 years out of my life to do this. And I like literally, Jesse, and I did this book last year.
Exactly. We can still
so
be
literally, like I did this book last year during the process of auditioning, and I still, when given the opportunity, was like, this is the wrong time. I feel like I need to tell them that like I can't do it right now. Like this wasn't, and I told myself this wasn't supposed to happen right now. Like I literally told myself that. So
the universe is my girl.
And you know who gathered me? That person right there gathered me and was like, no, it's here because, and that's why I'm here. So, but I think that's a big thing. It happens to us all. It can also feel like imposter syndrome that happens.
Yeah, it could be imposter syndrome. It could be just maybe not even allowing yourself to dream of these expansive possibilities. Like I know last week, she was having us talk about, those other alternate lives. I forget how she words them again, but those are things that like some of them are very accessible to us, right? Like, but it's sometimes our mental or just our spirit being blocked that we don't go after those things because maybe we feel like, oh, we're too old or we're already set in another career. Yesterday at my friend Janelle's birthday dinner, her friend there did a career change after she even had a daughter and everything, and then later changed her career, and she's loving it. But I think not everyone has that mentality to go for that, right? They'll be like, oh, I already have this set career. Now I have a family. Like I just have to stay here. But I appreciated her sharing her story that she was like, no, I just felt called to another direction and she did it. And now she has no regrets. And I think, again, that speaks to the artist way too. What we're learning is that like, it's never too late. If you have that inkling, that urge, that curiosity, that, may this book and this journey be there for you all to support you in trying these things out. Like we don't have to keep them forever, but just allowing ourselves the space to be not scared of, what could happen on the other side, which is usually going to be better than what we expected or informative to where now we walk a path that's better than what we were before. So all those things.
Shall we go into shame and fear?
Yes. I feel like this week she really was just going into these big heavy hitter topics. She's like, okay, we talk about anger. Now we talk about how y'all be playing with yourself. Now in your own
because with like the growth, right? With coming into like this, I think this synchronicity, shame and fear, because okay, we're afraid of it actually happening, and then also sometimes shame and fear can come from other people projecting like, well, I didn't know you were into that. I had no idea. So like, but it also, a lot of the shame and fear comes from ourselves. I think it always comes back to who's driving this car. We are driving this car. And it's easy to place shame and fear and anger on us responding to other people. But she really is offering a way to look at ourselves and how we embody shame and fear.
Yes, she mentions on page 67, shame is a controlling device. Shaming someone is an attempt to prevent the person from behaving in a way that embarrasses us. But she also shares on page 67, those of us who get bogged down by fear before action are usually being sabotaged by an older enemy, shame, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a society and as a community, we've been conditioned that shame is embarrassing. And so then we have this fear that, oh, I shouldn't do a thing because then I'm going to be shamed or I'm going to feel shame. And again, these things are oftentimes internal. Like sometimes external people aren't even doing this to us, but we are so conditioned that that fear of shame is still just as much as if someone were to shame us.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentions that the antidote to shame is self-love and self-praise. Yes. And I appreciate that because, again, we're talking about these heavy topics that can bring up a lot for us. And she really talks about how it's, again, she's always returning to the self. And I think that self-love is the pages, the self-praise is the pages, and our dates with ourselves. And that, like, it's okay if we feel these real emotions. We can feel angry, we can feel shame, we can have fear, but it's through loving ourselves, affirming ourselves, that we can build ourselves back up for this creative recovery and to rebuild our sense of power.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this part on page 68. Art opens the closets, airs out the cellars and attics. It brings healing. But before a wound can heal, it must be seen. And this act of exposing the wound to air and light, the artist's act, is often reacted to with shame. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then towards the end of that page, she shares, many artists begin a piece of work, get well along in it, and then find as they near completion that the work seems mysteriously drained of merit. It's no longer worth the trouble. To therapists, this surge of sudden disinterest is a routine coping device employed to deny pain and ward off vulnerability. And I feel like, yeah, that's so true. It's like, or if someone even gives you a compliment, it's like, oh, I love your outfit. It's like, oh, this little thing, like, oh, I just put it together. Oh, it's wrinkled. Like, oh, I was going to wear something better. It's like, just allow yourself to like be, and then if you are creating a work, like allow your work to be seen or just exist, even if people don't see it. Allow your work to exist, and it doesn't. And I think too, the safety blanket is like, oh, it's not finished yet, because the perfection.
Yes.
Many of us as artists and creatives, like, oh, it's not done, and it's like, it don't need to be done. It's okay.
that happens. Okay, y'all. I wrote my first 20-page research paper on immersive theater. And as I was done with the paper and I was about to give a 10-minute presentation at our research symposium on the campus of SDSU, where non-people in my major get to hear me talk about this thing. And I was telling Tony, I was like, I can't talk about this. I've never created, like, I felt my imposter syndrome. She was like, you literally did research and you have a 20-page paper. What do you mean you cannot get up and talk 10 minutes about this? Because the fear and like I shame myself, and like that whole like the merit thing is like, because it was just all a block. So that's what I'm thinking about, how that came up for me. And because I was afraid of criticism. Mm-hmm. I was anticipating actually criticism, because after your 10 minutes, you're asked questions because you are now deemed an expert. And I was just like, what if I don't know the answer? Well, the thing is, Tony was like, well, you're a researcher, so you can just, refer to. There's ways to be like studying a field and not know the answer. Like that's why you're a researcher, because there's constantly things to learn. So I had to really reshape my brain. My brain was breaking, but it comes from that, the fear,
Yeah.
being exposed.
Yeah, like whether you're a researcher, an artist, or all these other, identities we can have that, yeah, the thing I try to come back to is that, like, yeah, we don't have to be perfect, but like the curiosity is usually why we're in these roles, right? Like as a researcher, you're curious about a topic and that's why you research it. And then whenever you're sharing, then, you're just sharing your curiosities and what came out of that. And then people are probably going to be curious and ask you questions. But again, it's just more so that like ebb and flow of curiosity versus judgment and criticism, which we'll go into in a second. But I resonate with that as well. And she also talks about how artists may feel shame at admitting their dreams. And I feel like, especially with kids, like, I don't like the typical question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because first of all, like, are we ever really grown up? Like, you just keep growing. Like, you don't just grow up and you're just this stagnant.
We're done.
But I feel like sometimes if it's not something that's like in a box that you can check off, if it's not those types of future possibilities, I feel like adults sometimes can shame or poo-poo on children's ideas of what they want to be. And especially this day and age when all kinds of jobs have been created, like in the last maybe 10 years or 15 years, so many jobs have been created. Social media manager is a whole job. I'm a communications manager. Like all these different things, influencers, and even more other stuff outside of that. But that's stuff what's on my mind right now. Many of these jobs are new. But again, if someone 10 years ago would have been sharing that they want to do that, then they could be nervous to share their dreams because people aren't understanding of what, like, the possibilities that are out there. So I think it's also a reminder that, like, even if other people are not like encouraging you to, again, I think that's why we have the pages and our artist dates, so we can encourage ourselves or to find community of like-minded people who will encourage you, because you don't want to have so many external sensors around you. Like we talked about last week, you got to protect your environment, whether that's internal or external. But yeah, it's like really important to let go of that shame, which is hard. It's hard, and let go of the fear. But again, I think that's a part of the journey that we have to acknowledge. And again, that's why it's week 3. So she can like set the tone of like, let's let go of this. It's going to take a long time to shed it, but it needs to be done.
Oh, I love what Jenny just shared. My favorite quote I heard recently was, "Don't dilute your dreams due to improper dialogue with yourself."
Oh,
yes. Allow yourself to speak and draft. Draft your dreams out loud.
Yes.
Yes, I like that.
Yes. And then Nettie shared, please excuse the old handle, no worries. I was wrestling with so much shame today and looked back at my journal entry stating I need a pep talk protocol. I like that. And the next lines were exactly that, right? And see, that is what's beautiful about when you have journals, right? Is that, oh, that's not my journal. My journals is that you do have like a place to go back to, almost like a artifact or archive. That's what I was looking for, an archive of ways that you supported yourself and got through either tough times, challenging times, times that you really needed support. And usually, you're your best. You know yourself best. So if you are writing it in here, I think that's great. I know right now we're not supposed to look back, but if you do notice you're writing down things that are like Nettie's thing that's going to be maybe a resource in the future, maybe try to note that somewhere where you can go back to at a later time and, have that as like a tool for our toolkit.
Yeah, I love using journaling as having like notes for your future self. Like, hey, future self, I I've never done that before, but I'm like, oh, what would it look like to leave notes for your future self around your house in a book and to discover it one day?
Yes. And the last quote I want to share in this theme of shame and fear is on page 71, and it shared, "My years in artistic recovery had taught me to just show up." Right? So I think a lot of times, again, we're putting pressure on ourselves to do a big project, to present a finished, project, to go in front of people and do a thing that we're just learning to do. And she's really just show up, right? Even if we're not perfect, even if there's no one there, show up for yourself. And that's something I've learned through in the last 2 years, but especially with reading this book, had been like honoring myself. That's the phrase I use is honoring commitments to myself. And that's partially with my pole journey. Like there's days I'm like, I don't want to go to pole, like I'm tired, or it makes my body sore, like it literally does. But I'm like, I want to honor my commitments. And then I just show up to class. Some days it's really great. I'm learning new tricks. Other days I can barely get myself to grip the pole because sometimes your body is just not working with the pole. Because you just show up, or if that's just you showing up to the page, writing down one word, right? Or going outside and just getting a breath of fresh air, just showing up is what's helpful.
Yeah, just showing. One thing that came up, it was on Instagram. I wish I had the synchronicity snapshot to share, but someone was asking an actor, like, "Oh, like, how do you know you're an actor?" And the answer was like, "You know you're an actor when you read scripts, it's a practice. When you're in practice, so you're an artist if you have a practice. It has nothing to do with performance or sharing. It has nothing to do with the outside world. You know you're an artist if that's the way you relate to the world." And I feel like that's important. Like that's part of showing up. But let's get into this criticism and rules of the road.
Yeah, because I feel like some of our comments were already kind of getting there. So again, another heavy hitter topic this week, as always, with Julia Cameron. And again, we kind of talked about this before when we've talked about the censor. That's like our inner critique. We've also talked about what is she named for the external people? Like there's crazy makers, but there's also another
censor.
No, not that one. It was like enemy.
Poisonous playmates.
Yeah. So again, over each week, we have been kind of talking about these things, but this week she really goes into specifically criticism, because if we're doing these artistic practices, creative practices, we could make ourselves vulnerable for critique.
And like what's important is like to know what is, because I think people, when they think criticism, they there's bad criticism, like meaning abusive criticism, and then helpful criticism. And I like that she was able to decipher the two, because I think that's important in our recovery to know how to filter criticism, because not everyone's going to be able to give you the criticism that is helpful. So it's up to us to be a filter when we're hearing it from the outside world or people that we call in to help sharpen our toolbox.
Yeah. So on page 72, she shares, "Pointed criticism, if accurate, often gives the artist an inner sense of relief."
Like, okay.
So that's what was wrong with it. Useful criticism ultimately leaves us with a puzzle piece for our work. So again, when you're like, oh, okay, that was a missing element, or maybe someone's like, oh, have you thought about this? Or sometimes even someone sharing their perspective of what they thought of your work, because sometimes you're not even thinking about that. And they're like, oh, it really connects to the theme of, community. You're like, you know what? Yeah, hell yeah. But then she talks about useless is leaving us feeling of being bludgeoned. As a rule, it is withering and shaming in tone, ambiguous in content, personal, inaccurate, or blanket in its condemnations, right? And so she talks about that being irresponsible. So again, if you are going to critique someone's work, and especially if they're, coming from shadow artists to not, that's a very vulnerable time, especially to just be mindful of like what's coming out. And I think that's also helpful as an artist, to, again, like you said, like to filter, like, is this really me or is it this person? Like maybe they're just giving useless criticism, or maybe they're even projecting their own use. Like maybe they got this critique and now they're projecting it onto you. So I think it's just helpful, again, like for our mindset to know that it's criticism can be helpful. I think that's one helpful mindset. To, not all critique is bad, but if it makes you feel bad, then that might be because it's not the useful kind.
And it's in our power to be like, whether we're looking for criticism or not. Because if you're not looking for criticism, don't entertain it. Don't. But if you do want criticism, it's in our power to frame it. Hey, could you read this for me? And what I'm looking to get at is like, you can ask for pointed feedback. I think that's something, that's why it's a part of the power chapter, because it's like, if you don't want criticism, if you're just like, hey, I'm just here vibing, it's okay to be like, put criticism to the side. But if you do want criticism, it's in our power to shape and frame that for people. Like even like with Tony being my sister, like looking for criticism, there's a way to, even if you're the person being asked to look at someone's work, okay, what are you looking for? What kind of feedback are you wanting? I think it's important to develop language and culture around how to be critical of work. Otherwise, like it's for me, it's like I when I went to the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, I used to be very like critical of like what I liked and didn't like about abstract art until I was educated on like the background, and now I'm able to appreciate it. So now so for me, it's like sometimes like the useless criticism comes from a lack of familiarity with the subject matter. And so don't go to someone who's not in that field or not even adjacent, unless you want it's just important to like know that it's in our power to frame criticism. Is that I'm kind of going on, but
Yeah. And she mentions on page 72, she lists 9 ways, rules of the road when dealing with any form of criticism, which is really helpful, again, when we're going through this. She says, 1, receive the criticism all the way through and get it over with, right? So just, okay, lay it on me. 2, jot down notes to yourself on what concepts or phrases bothered you, right? So just check in. Maybe it's the way they said something, right? Or a word that's kind of triggering. 3, jot down notes on what concepts or phrases seem useful, right? Again, maybe they're sharing themes that you didn't even notice that you're like, oh, I can actually use this. Do something very nurturing for yourself. Read an old good review or recall a compliment. I love this one. And I think I mentioned this last year, but I have an album in my phone called Positive Notes. And I literally just either screenshot if it's like a text message, or if it's something someone sends to me, then I just put it in that album. And then if I'm feeling down, then I'll go through the album and just like look at different positive compliments or notes that people sent to me. And there's quite a few things in there now, which is like really sweet. And so, yeah, that could be like sticky notes if you want to put it up somewhere where you can see, or if you write it down in your journal. Like, I think it's just helpful, again, to just come back to the good things. Because again, sometimes if we're getting these critiques, we can then get angry or feel shame or fear. So to, recall those positive moments can be helpful in this whole process. And then the last one, I won't go through every single one, but the last one, or the second to last one, she says, like, get back on the horse. So make an immediate commitment to doing something creative, which I think is really helpful. Again, if it's especially like a criticism that kind of rocks you off and you're like, oh, I don't know, like, is my whole piece now terrible? But then just like make another thing, because then it's just like, will kind of help your mind and body alchemize and be like, okay, I'm not like a terrible artist entirely. It's just like, oh, this thing just wasn't helpful. Which now I'm taking a mental note of like, okay, I can really use that. Because sometimes I know for myself, I want to shut down and just be like, oh, fine, like maybe I just won't do this. But it's like, no, you can do this. It's just maybe you need to take some of the feedback and use it, or maybe the feedback is not for you and brush it off. And then the last one that I really love is do it. Creativity is the only cure for criticism. So I feel like, again, when we're getting these critiques, getting these feedback, it's really important for us to connect back to our own inner creativity so we don't get stuck in the rut of like feeling like we're less than or not worthy or not enough of an artist.
Yeah. It goes back to that one quote was like, I'll focus on the quantity, you focus on the quality. There was like a quote like that was in another chapter. So
Yeah.
it's like the act of doing the art, the creativity is the reward. The practice is the reward. The opportunity to perform or have your work seen or critiqued is out of abundance. So never feeling like that is the final form in which your creativity is framed. I think like making the goal to be constantly in practice. So that's where that comes from for me. It's like creativity is the only cure, because creativity is that's the prize, is the action of creating. The other element, the having critique, is the sharing. It's like, okay, it's out of abundance. And if we're abundant in our creative process and practice, having one work critiqued, well, I have all these other things, and this is for me. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, like you said, to create the thing, to also maybe create something just for you. Like maybe, again, the creating something just to do it, it doesn't have to be something to show, because maybe being really vulnerable with showing someone. So then just be like, oh, this is just for me. It's just in my journal, or I just hung it up in my wall just for me.
That's what my fashion's about. Like for me, because I'm constantly getting criticized in grad school. We have a studio class that's 3 days a week, y'all, where you have to like do things by yourself. And people, literally, there's a panel of people picking apart your performance. So, but you know what? My outfit's always going to be good. I'm always gonna feel good walking in.
Yeah.
Because there's that. I have that for myself, and I feel like that has helped give me an armor, like to filter the criticism. Like at the very least, I feel fabulous. Mm-hmm. I may have had a funky performance and something's not quite on par, but I do feel good about myself.
Yes. And that makes me think too, I feel like I never correlated it to a critique. But when one of our sultry community members, Elise, when we first started Sultry, I mean, y'all might not even realize this, but we used to feature other artists, not ourselves. Crazy to say now, but
it used to be very shadow and sultry.
Yes. We would just facilitate the space and curate the space, but we would not be the guest speaker. We would host many other healers, artists, wellness practitioners to speak and share their practices. Even though we did some of the practices as well, we didn't see ourselves as like the person to lead the thing. So our friend Elise, who owns a crystal shop that we always go to, Mystic Soul Ritual Shop. But I remember after one of the workshops, she was like, why don't y'all lead the sessions? She was like, y'all could do this. Like she saw it in us. She was like, y'all could do this. Like, why aren't you leading the different workshops y'all have? And so that stuck with us. And it actually wasn't till the pandemic, because then we couldn't really as freely collaborate with people. So then that was the first time we solo presented and curated and did the whole thing, facilitated just ourselves. And now we ebb and flow. There's sometimes it's really just sultry, and other times we collaborate with many folks, but she kind of pushed us in that direction. Yes. And just that it just helped us be like, oh, like, why don't we?
And that goes into the detective work exercise. Many Block people are actually very powerful and creative personalities who have been made to feel guilty about their own strengths and gifts without being acknowledged, like what Elise did. They are often used as batteries by their families and friends, who feel free to both use their creative energies and disparage them. Not that anyone was doing that, but we're offering our batteries to facilitate versus also feature ourselves. So you can do that to yourself.
Yeah, and like we were creating these amazing spaces. People loved it. We loved it. But yeah, it wasn't until someone in our community to be like, hey, y'all could be doing this. And again, sometimes you do need that helpful nudge. So again, and at the time I didn't even take it as a critique, but now reading this for a second time, I'm like, oh, I think that did help us like just pause and be like, oh, why are we not doing that? And then we realize, oh, we do want to show up in that way. So again, I think there is definitely positive criticism that can help push you on the right direction on your journey.
Yes, it was definitely a puzzle piece we needed. Now to growth, y'all. We're almost to the end.
Yeah, so growth. Again, we talked about anger, we talked about shame and fear, synchronicity. So, like, really honing your power and receiving that. We talked about criticism. So, when your work is like, okay, maybe it needs added things. And then now it's that growth, right? Like, so when we talk about power, you also sometimes have to grow into that, or sometimes having power makes you grow.
Yes, and I love how this section opens up with growth is an erratic forward movement, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Remember that and be very gentle with yourself. A creative recovery is a healing process.
And I love that. Yeah, it's erratic. It ebbs and flows.
Wiki, wiki, aw. Sorry. I love a little squishy. Sorry. Okay, I'm stopping.
And like plants too, right? Like sometimes my plants are thriving and then other times they're just dormant. They're like, girl, I'm just hanging on. I'm like, me too, y'all. But yes, I love that reminder that sometimes it could be 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's like even with Soul Tree in our journey, some years it's like abundance of external contracts we're getting and we're outside literally like doing a lot of work. Other years it's more internal and we're really doing behind the scenes work, setting ourselves up to sustain ourselves. Sometimes it's like partnerships and experiences being amazing and we're like, yeah, let's do more. And sometimes we're like, oh, we learned that we don't want to do that again, or
growth
protections.
Yes, growth is nonlinear. That's what I see. If I were to make this more succinct quote, growth is nonlinear.
Exactly.
We love that. And it's personal to everybody. Everyone's growth is going to look different.
Yes. And it also talks about practice being kind to yourself in small, concrete ways. And ask yourself, are you feeding yourself nicely? And I think that's beautiful too, like on this growth journey to really be soft with yourself, right? I know right now on social media, people talk about soft life, but you also need to be soft with yourself, not just soft on what you expect to receive from others, but like, what are you also doing for yourself? So on your growth journey, you don't get burnt out or you don't get stunted, right? We don't want to stunt our own growth. We want to allow ourselves to flourish and to thrive. And that will happen once, we're nourishing ourselves. So I think she also talks about each week so far is that nourishing. And I think that's what's a part of that healing as well.
And I like how on page 75, if you're doing something very hard, promise yourself a break and a treat afterward. That's, I mean, it's like that. We talk a lot in this book is about the inner child. And I don't know. And it's that nurturing, like knowing how are we balancing? Okay, this is about to be hard. So I'm going to take a break and I'm going to give myself a treat. That's how I think that speaks to sustainability. How are we able to sustain? And sometimes these like boot camps that people do, whether it's a creative boot camp or a physical boot camp or trying to power through reading something in one day, it's like we want lasting change. We want something to be able to stick, and sometimes that requires you to pause, take a break, or go back and do it again.
Sankofa.
Look back, move forward. Yes, sorry.
And also on page 75, she mentions more than anything else, experiment with solitude. You will need to make a commitment to quiet time, right? So in growth, right? Like I think, especially on my journey, I do feel like there's definitely seasons and I'm like, I need to just lock in with myself. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm like anti being around people, because community is also healing, but there are some things that you really have to just check in with yourself. You don't need any extra energy around. And quietness, right? Because that quietness is when we can really, on the page, get it out and know that this is our subconscious and our thoughts and not
Your
anyone,
voice.
our own voice. And it's also about that quiet, for also that creative, for us to hear and feel those creative urges, because sometimes if there's so much going on around us, that can come up, but then we might not really attribute it to like, oh, I'm feeling inspired, or oh, let me do this thing, because then you might get thrown off by external factors or energy. And so again, I do think that solitude, especially when we're talking about recovering, this whole book is about recovery. And think about that, like, I mean, not that the Western medical system is always great, but sometimes you think if you get hurt, then you have your own, bed at the hospital to be checked into, so you can just with yourself. Because if you had to share a bed with another person while you're trying to heal, you're just like, hold on, like scoot over, like I need a pillow too. So I feel like, again, when we're talking about recovery, you do need that time with yourself.
Many things come from solitude. I feel like that's why, like, me being at home on Sunday is what sparked up the spontaneity of tapping. If I wasn't in solitude, if I didn't have idle time.
Exactly.
Yes.
The closing quote we want to share is, as a creative being, you will be more productive when coaxed than bullied. Right? So it's kind of just like
Sugar.
tending to our inner artist with treats. It's like when you're trying to get your dog to follow you, you're like, here's some treats. You need to do that with your inner artist, okay? Like, here, oh, you did one page today. Good job, sweetie. Okay, you went for a walk. Okay, good job. Oh, you went on a date. Oh, you release yourself from someone else's judgment. So like all those things are gonna help.
Small celebrations.
Yes, instead of bullying, like, oh, why didn't you get up and do your pages right away? Like, that's not going to help you get up again. Okay? Those things are just going to weigh you down. But like to feel more free, to feel more like your own self, to tap in to your creative self, is to really, again, just like show up for yourself, honor yourself, meet yourself where you're at, and to celebrate the small wins. If you just got one page, if you just showed up and listened today, it's all good.
It's all good. You showed up. I mean, to close out, let's talk about our tasks.
Yes.
Week 3 task. Let us know in the comments if you are participating in our book club. If you did any of these tasks, let us know which one you did by number. There are about 10 of them. I thought this was interesting, like reflecting on the chapter, like recovering a sense of power, and the different things that we highlighted, and how much of these questions, it was kind of interesting. Like, it was talking about describing yourself as a child, childhood accomplishments, lots of things about friends and people. So a lot of relationships. A lot of these tasks were reflections on relationships. I thought was interesting.
Before we get into the task, we do have Halen, sharing. It's like the myth of Amaterasu. The goddess is coaxed out of hiding by a fun, sexy party, not bullying and demands. And I do feel like, again, there's other stories and mythologies and all these things that, do have these similar themes that I think are helpful to go back to for sure. But for the task, I really enjoy number 1, like describing your childhood room. And if y'all don't know my childhood room, well, we had many rooms because we moved around. My last childhood room was the pink room. Still goes by the pink room. The room had a name of her own. Okay, she's identifiable without even me. She's the pink room. And I wrote, like, I literally said, literally still call it the pink room. Lots of pink, purple, butterflies. I had posters. I had like Bratz posters, like
Mm-hmm.
Jonas Brothers, Justin Bieber, like Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff. I love that movie, and Chad Michael Murray was in that movie. Um, I had like a karaoke machine. Um, I remember my mom would like crochet blankets and stuff, so I'd have like that on top of my comforter. And at one point I also loved like the color lilac purple, so I had like a bunch of like purple stuff. And my room was always like cute, in my opinion. Like I always was like decorating it. My mom would take me to little places to go get my home decor, or like we thrift home decor. So like I always like, even though we moved in like a military family, I remember like when I was writing this stuff down that like I always made sure that like my room like felt like me. Like growing up, we couldn't paint. So because now my parents own that home, so we could paint. But before that, we couldn't paint our rooms. So I think that's why I always put like posters up and like different colorful stuff, because like the walls were literally plain white. And so when I thought of my room now, I actually thought of how my favorite thing was my self-portrait wall that I had in my old apartment that I haven't put up in my new apartment, which I've been in here almost 2 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's something I want to do very soon, is put up my self portraits, because I really loved having that wall. And my last place essentially is just a bunch of prints and art pieces that remind myself of myself. So it's not necessarily like portraits I made of myself, but it's things that I've either been gifted or I found myself that remind me of like my essence or my authentic self. And having it in my bedroom wall just was always affirming, because it just felt like I was reflected there. And so I'm missing that, and I want that back up.
Yeah, Jesse did number one as well, and four was about the habits. I did that as well. I wasn't expecting to touch a nerve. I have to redecorate my room. Yes, like Tony was saying, she wants to bring back her self portraits. I did number. I loved number three. List 5 childhood accomplishments. Y'all, one of my accomplishments was able to ride a bike with no hands. Okay, the fact that I could ride my bike with that was a big deal, y'all, for me, is being able to ride a bike with no hands. I don't know why, but I remember like that. I felt like it's a core memory of mine. And then winning second at a spelling bee. Y'all, I spelled neighborhood wrong.
Oh.
It's okay, but I never will now. Um, and then winning a coloring contest.
Ooh.
Because I was like thinking childhood accomplishments. I mean, I've had other accomplishments of like, because we were competitive dancers where we, won awards like that. But I was also thinking back into like something that was just for me. Like
Yeah.
I accomplished that. And I remember like, it was something about the bike.
Yeah, no, that's why when I was doing these, I thought of like, yeah, just for me, because honestly, these competition stuff, like for dance, honestly, I don't remember. I probably score high. Well, except for my tap trio, because I really liked my tap trio. We did place for nationals. Okay. Acapella, y'all. Syncopated acapella tap trio. National.
You better.
I didn't even write that down, because again, I was thinking more. I put
Yeah.
talent show when we danced at 3LW, which is just me and 2 other friends having fun. It probably was not even that cute of a dance, but I loved it, and I loved 3LW. And then I put Zootopia modeling. It was this little store.
Oh, yes.
And me and my best friend Kiki, we're still friends to this day. Now she has a baby, but we were just window models for a day. Like I think they put out a flyer and they're like, you can come back on Saturday and window model. We came back. And I tell you, we modeled those windows. Okay. My mom takes pictures. My mom's like a photographer. So we have pictures to remember this by. And I remember we're just having our little outfit. Because again, I'm a little fashionista.
It was cute.
I remember styling. We would style ourselves. And we were in the window, like instead of the mannequins, y'all. We as little girls were just
it was. We had to find that picture and show it in another thing, like maybe online.
Yeah, me and Kiki always still talk about that. Man, we're like, remember when we were window models, and like I don't know if other stores did that, but we loved it.
I do remember that.
We loved it so much. So that was like one of my accomplishments. And I also put another one was like staying in touch with friends, because since we're military kids, I felt like when my friends would like keep going after all the years, I always would feel so nice of like, oh, we're still calling each other. Like we'd have to call each other's home phones and leave messages, back in the day. And then also I put designing my outfits. So like Sultry Mama would sew them, but I would design them. So we would get like old jeans or whatever, and I'd have her make them into mini skirts, and I'd add different fabric to add like ruffles or pockets, add embellishments, and then she would usually make a matching one for my dolls. So I'd have little outfits. So I also thought of like, oh, I always felt good about like the things I would create. Like I would be crafty and love just creating stuff. Again, just for fun. Like I would just create bracelets and then invite friends over. We'd create bracelets, and that was it. Like it wasn't like, oh, now I'm starting an Etsy shop or something. It was like and I still do have that personality trait now. Like I just like doing stuff just to do it.
Jessie, I color sometimes, but I don't have an active coloring practice, but this did make me want to tap back into that. And I also love what they asked about was the 5 favorite childhood foods. I was like, now this is fun. This is fun. And then after they asked that question, now eat one of them. Did anyone do that? Did the childhood foods and eat one of them? Did you?
I did, yeah. So my list was gummy bears, sloppy joes. I remember when I was like, I just love the sloppy joe. Like I was like, I would get so excited. I'd be like, yeah. And then
it's the one lunch meal that I actually liked.
Right? I don't know what about it. And sometimes as an adult, I'll crave that taste, but I won't make it because it just seems all random. And I feel like it has to feed a family. I feel like you can't just make one sloppy joe. Anyways, and then I put chicken nuggets. Still this day, I still like chicken nuggets. Sinigang, because it's like a comfort food. My mom will always make it. And then I put Trix cereal or Fruit Loops. Like I like those fruity cereals, but
that's on my list too.
Because I think we would get Fruit Loops more often, but I feel like Trix was like a treat if I got the Trix one, and because they had that the commercial, Trix are for kids. I'm like, I want that one. And then I put Lunchables, and this week I actually ate a Lunchable. I bought a Lunchable. Brought it to work and ate it, and I was like happy because I remember just when I was little, I'd always be like, "Oh, like which Lunchable am I gonna get?" And I do have gummy bears here, but I eat gummy bears all the time still. So
that's yes.
But I was so happy to eat my Lunchable.
Yeah, interesting. Because Jessie mentioned number 4, the rotten habits, and how we had to tie it to something. I thought that was very interesting. Like, take a look at your habits, and then the question is write 3 habits, and then what's the payoff in continuing them? I was like, why?
So this is why it's hard for me with social media, because every time we talk about habits that can be like not helpful, scrolling social media is something I always put. That was number 1. I said scrolling TikTok endlessly. But then a benefit is that, again, right now is where I post my outfit videos is primarily on TikTok. So I found like a fashionista community on there, and I get to express myself more freely because right now there's not really as many people following me on there. So no pressure. You don't have to follow me on there because it helps me be free. But yeah, and I also feel like through social media, I've met a lot of friends and connections. So it is hard for me because I feel like I do have a payoff from my times and randomly scrolling on TikTok. I'll just like meet someone or see a page and then connect, and then like there's a ripple effect. But I do feel like at this point, it is a little bit more time spent on there than I should. But that is an example of something that's always hard for me because I do feel like there is a payoff, like when I think about it. So yeah.
One of my, I put this as I don't know if this is I'm not sure if this is a good one or a bad one, but I was like keeping everyone at an arm length as acquaintances. And I put, what's the payoff? I can avoid being vulnerable and depending on anyone. It's a habit of like keeping people at an acquaintance level, but it's the truth. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just saying, I feel like Julia Cameron's like, girl, we just talked about being vulnerable.
I know, but it's like I feel like a lot of people will say habits like, like not like, habits that are very like, oh yeah, I get that as a bad habit. I had to like really check myself, and I'm like, that is a habit.
No, that's true. I do feel like that's true. That is a habit. And one of mine, similar kind of, is like I put saying yes before checking my capacity. I feel like that's a habit I have. And there'll be people around me who'll be like, no, but do you really have time? And then I'll be like, it's not until after they ask me, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't actually. And even at work this week, like there's a couple outreach events because it's Black Maternal Health Week and I work in Black maternal health. And I was offering myself to show up to these events. And my boss was literally like, you're not needed. Like we have it covered. Like you have your days, like you can do what you need to do. And one of them would have been on the weekend. And she's like, you could just do what you need to do. And then I realized like, yeah, girl, you need to tend to your house. Like, so yeah, it's probably better if you're not doing these other things when you don't need to be there.
Right?
But again,
Yeah.
like, not until someone asks me, like, do you actually have capacity? That I actually am like, wait, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, the habit of being too available. Yes. I also liked number 7, inner compass. Speaking of that, because it's talking about like she says this is an instinct that points us towards health. It warns us, and she said that some morning pages are one way to contact it. For me, it was like, so if you've been having like, why are we doing morning pages? I still am not really tying it into. It's the inner voice and the inner compass. You're going to start to feel stronger in being able to measure how you're doing. Checking with yourself. And then she goes, aside from morning pages, some other brain activities are like painting, driving, walking, running. She says this week take some time to follow your inner compass doing a artist brain activity. Listen to what insights bubble up. I think that for me is like, I don't know if anyone had a chance to do number 7, but I feel like that could be really helpful in our recovery.
Yeah, I didn't do that one this week, but I did like that one. I just didn't get to it. But I did feel like, yeah, that's helpful. And I guess, well, I'm thinking about it now. It wasn't intentional, but again, when I was collaging, like sticker collaging and doodling on the notebook during the conference I was at, it did kind of have that artist brain, what they're talking about, because it's just like, oh, like I just get into a flow. And then I remember people around me being like, oh my God, like that's really good. And again, like your own self-critic. I'm like, oh, I'm just like, putting stickers and like on this thing. But it did get me into like a flow of like where I was thinking, because I was at a conference, and sometimes at conferences, you're always doing things, going to workshops, meeting people. So you don't always take time to kind of like process and alchemize like the things you've taken in during the day. So it was nice to have like a creative outlet to do that. So I really appreciated it because the stickers that I chose was very on like how I doodled around them.
For me, an inner compass exercise is like the music I select to listen to. I think that tells me a lot about my mood. So just like song selection. And I think there was also something in this chapter is like what music. Oh, I lost it. I thought that was one of the things. No, was it? It was maybe. Oh no, it was in the chapter. It was in detective work.
Yeah, detective.
I was talking about music. My most cheer me up music is. So that was a lot.
I know. Thank y'all for writing it out with us. I know we had a lot to go over, but We love all of that because we get to check in with y'all. Y'all get to check in with yourselves. And again, this is about community. This is about, supportive accountability. We know that during the Artist Way is hard to do solo. So we're offering this space for you all every week to chat, to check in, to ask questions, to get inspired. I love when y'all share all the different activities y'all been doing and your reflections, because again, I feel like we're all connected in different ways. So it's really special. Next week, we have special guest, Dr. Kyle Moore, who was on the live today in the comments. But next week, he will be on with us. So we're really excited. So same time, same place. We'll have him sharing. And just a heads up, next week is the recovering a sense of integrity. And with this is going to be a task of deprivation, of reading deprivation. And so just a heads up that this week has in the past been challenging for many of us in the community, but it's okay. We're just sharing that it's okay, but something to have a heads up to. So
definitely make sure to read the chapter today or tomorrow so that you can really do the task of reading deprivation. I like how you gave that heads up, Tony.
Yes. And Kyle shares, thanks to y'all for hosting. Excited to chat next week. Yes, we're excited. But yes, so just a reminder. So just try to read the chapter at the top of the week. So tonight, tomorrow, so then you have the whole week to do the activity of the deprivation, and we will reflect next Wednesday. And every other week, we're going to have an awesome guest joining us. So if you're interested, reach out to us, either DM us or email us, connect@soultreesisters.com. We love having you all here. If you're a guest 1 week and you want to come back later on, we're open to that too. So thank you all for reading with us, for joining the community, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.